insurance thing, that's something that I've been having a discussion with, and I think we are probably going to switch a few of our insurances around after talking about that house fire and stuff that we had years ago. That's one thing that I've kind of discovered, and now I'm realizing I need to take some action on it. But that's just knowing your insurance agent, not going to whatever you have, Progressive or Geico or one of the ones where you're just filling out a thing on the computer and that's what you're dealing with. Like being able to actually have a conversation with the guy who's protecting your assets. And then if something comes up like that and you have questions, there's someone to call, not a website to visit, and to actually deal with a human being.
Yeah,
it's a huge thing. So we just started kind of playing around with that. Like, I want to start interviewing insurance people.
Yeah, you should. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because our auto insurance guy for the longest time, it's dumb salesman-y stuff. You know, they're trying to make it seem like it's a personal relationship, and it is. I can call the guy whenever I want. Harold, his name was Harold. I can call him whenever the heck I wanted to, but he would call me every year on my birthday, and I would answer. And talk to him, and I knew it was him. And you know what? Because it was dumb. It was stupid that he did it. But it's like, you know what? His boss is probably telling him to do this to try to build this relationship. I don't care. I'll answer and talk to you. You know, because I know you have to do it. So I like that.
Not just that though, but I mean, it probably started off as a kitschy salesman-y thing, but now he's got people that expect it every year.
Well, but I dropped him, so. Yeah, I guess it only works at a certain point.
Screw you, Harry.
Actually, my wife does all that stuff. She does all the paperwork, all the taxes, all the everything, you know, and including now with the podcast. She loves that the podcast has grown so much, and it has, and it's been so cool. And it's like, wow. How fun that I could just start the podcast, and all I wanted to do was talk to these people that didn't already have a voice. Yeah. You know, that's all I wanted. Like, okay, I'm getting what I want out of this. And I say on my podcast all the time, I started it because I wanted to scratch my own itch. I heard that from Tim Ferriss. That's why he started his podcast. He's talking to these people and getting these questions out of people that he wanted to hear, and he wrote a book about it. You know, and that's the same as me. And so she's like, how crazy that you called up these people that you wanted to talk to and hear their voice and hear how to answer your questions, and now you have thousands of people listening to your podcast. It's just it's amazing how that can happen. But anyway, so now she's dealing with all the taxes, but it's a little easier because she likes how, you know, when you start getting, you know, sponsorships and things. And
how far into it before you decided you need to create an entity to be able to write off and do all that?
I did it right off the bat.
Yeah.
Mainly because we already had a business. So I knew how it was, and I didn't do it to write things off. In fact, we didn't. And I didn't make any money the first year and into the second year. And I'm still not really making a lot of money, like you. And I always tell people, hey, like, you have a Patreon. Folks, if you're listening to this podcast, you're getting a free information. I mean, I think you're weekly. You try to be.
Trying to be weekly.
So, I mean, if you're getting that out,
consistent.
It's like, hey, throw $1 a month. It's so easy. But, yeah, I mean, I've got that, and I've got, you know, I think 30 people, something like that, 20 to 30 people. And, yeah, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit. And then with the sponsorships and stuff, and it starts kind of adding up. And I haven't gone as far as – I guess I don't need to because we have Pepper's Farm as well. So, like, I bought microphones and stuff, and it's computer stuff. So, you know, maybe I can kind of – like our computer, when we buy that, you know, I'm looking at buying a new computer right now. And it's like, okay, well, that's a Pepper's Farm computer, you know, so because we're already doing that there. I'm not trying to get over on the government by owning a business and trying to write off, you know, all this small stuff. But I could, I guess, and if it gets to a point where I'm actually making a ton of money, then yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, being a W-2 employee, I kind of look at things different, going, I should probably start something. Just
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Right, we've got to see how the pickup goes. Well, I'll revisit that when I have thousands of people listening.
So tell your friends. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope some of my followers are listening to this episode at least. I mean, that's the cool thing is you can branch out, and when you start talking to these folks and you're talking to me, and I have thousands of followers that listen to my show. Let's say 1,000 of them listen because you know what? On my show, I don't tell my story. The people don't know I work for Pepperidge Farm, so I'm going to tell them, hey, go over there and check this out because you're going to hear a lot of my history. I mean, we didn't even get into Shotsies. I mean, geez, that's a whole other episode, right?
Absolutely. I don't remember most of that episode, but it was fun times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even know if you want to dive into that, right?
No.
We should do that at a different time.
We'll totally save that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, people don't know that much about me because I'm interviewing people.
Yeah.
I'm not having a conversation like you are.
You don't get to get the origin story and kind of what lit the fire and started the bug. And
if somebody listened to, like right now, I've got close to 100 episodes. I have 100 recorded.
Yeah.
If somebody listened to all those, they would
piece it together.
But yeah, there's not one episode where you can go and hear it, and I don't want that on my show.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool to come over here and hopefully,
Yeah, get that whole deal. Because that's, I know off mic when you talk, the few conversations I've had about having a podcast and when I'm recruiting. Son of a bitch, I turned my mic off for half of that. But where I was going was I talk to people and get into that origin story, telling them how I got into it. And they immediately, most of the people that say yes because they've thought on their own. I want to be on I want my own podcast.
Yeah.
And you hear kind of their, like, what would they be doing if they were doing it? If they just did it instead of talked about it.
Well, like you talked about my buddy Aria Zoner, the Hot Springs Trail author, and he posted something on his Instagram the other day, and it said, "Hey, come check out this YouTube of me rapping." And that's the kind of thing is like, hey, just like the podcast thing is like, yeah, I never ever fashioned myself to be a rapper, but this guy had the nerve to actually go and do it. And he made his own beats and made these raps. And I commented on it. I'm like, man, this is awesome. So cool, man. I wish I could do that or whatever. He sent me the track and he's like, hey, you should rap. And, let's just say I tried. Right. But the whole thing is that you just, those urges to do something. I think my comment to you was, if somebody asked you to rap to a beat, what would you say? And not everybody's going to say yes, but that's the same thing with podcasting. Not everybody's going to say yes.
Yeah. You can't. Don't want to put myself out there. That's the one thing. The few people that have told me an awesome story, and I've said that's a great story. That could totally be that 10 minutes would be the perfect meat and potatoes of what I would base the episode off you and me of sitting down talking. And the people who say no are the ones. But I can't stand my own voice. I don't want to hear my own voice.
Yeah. But you know what? I kind of laugh at those people because I can't stand the sound of my own voice. And I've had people come up to me before I ever got into podcasting, and they might say something like, oh, man, I heard you on the other side of the aisle at the grocery store talking, and I knew it was you or whatever. Yeah, and then I always think about that. I'm like, well, that kind of makes me feel self-conscious. Like if my voice is that recognizable, then maybe it's not good. But then I started getting the podcast, and this will happen if it hasn't happened already, but I went down to Pacific Crest Trail Days. So I'm down in Oregon. And I was just there having fun, right? I was actually volunteering at a booth, and there's thousands of hikers there, and I was helping out Alta West sell memberships to try to build the trail community and help give information like the 10 essentials and random stuff like that. And they're the American Long Distance Hiking Association. And anyway, so I'm sitting there talking to this guy, hey, blah, 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 blah. And this guy comes up and is like, you're Rudy. You're the Cascade Hiker podcast. And he'd never seen my face, other than the
biopic.
Yeah, the biopic or whatever. And he recognized me from my voice from the podcast. And that moment I was just like, wow, cool. But then you get people and they're like, oh, man, you've got this great voice for podcasting. I'm like, I don't think I do, but, whatever, I guess,
It's better to hear that than saying you have a face for radio.
Yeah. Well, that's what I usually answer with, yeah. But the funny thing was, because I used to mimic, without getting into any stories, but I used to mimic our DJ from Shotsies because he had this just funny voice. It was just, and he was a great guy. I loved him, but.
The big bald gun?
Yeah. And Sergey Brown. And so I had his voice where I could mimic him. And then there was this other guy. There was this magician that used to be at Paraíso, Mexican restaurant. And he was, I believe he was from like Russia or something. He had this very distinct, but he was so I'm going to do this, and I had his voice. And it was very close. Like, it wasn't that far off from the Sergey voice. So a lot of times, like when I'd be at Albertsons and I'd get on the intercom and I would just get out one of those voices or some kind of morphine, version of me through their styles of talking. And now I do it with a lot of the podcast hosts and stuff too. But my wife said, well, because I have an intro to my podcast, it's been the same ever since I started. Well, I've edited a little bit, but mainly just for length. And she said, the first one I did, she's like, no way. That's Sergey. And that's one of the things people say the most when you're doing this is that you shouldn't have a voice that's not your voice, because then you always have to be on, quote unquote. Yeah. And so, I wanted to make sure that I didn't want to go overboard on it. So I actually sent it out to a whole bunch of my friends that I knew listened to podcasts before I put it out. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Is it overboard? Does it sound good? And we kind of came to a conclusion amongst a group that was like, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. So
it's got enough of that radio pitchiness to it.
But I didn't want to do the, hey, this is Rudy, blah, like, oh, okay, hold on,
spinning the top hits,
flash the pod, boom, blah. It's like, let's slow down there.
Getting into some of those old Stern WNBC.
Don't do that, because you're forever going to be that guy, and I didn't want to do that. So
that's.
I didn't want to be Sergey.
That's always my answer when people tell that to me. It's like I don't like the sound of my own voice either, but I don't want to play it up. I don't want to modify my voice, because then that's one of the best things that I hear throughout a week or whatever is someone across a grocery store hears me laughing. I got that laugh that carries, and I literally just happened a couple of weeks ago. I was at Fred Meyer in Alderwood, and someone was in produce walking in there, like, I could tell Josh is here because I heard him laughing in the spirits aisle, and that's halfway across the store. Perfect.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, but as far as you say with the what was the question? The voices you were talking about the.
Oh, hell, I forgot what the question was.
Because people don't want to hear their own voice.
Oh, yeah.
So as far as that goes, with people not wanting to hear their own voice, I always tell them,
you don't have to listen.
You don't have to listen, but guess what? They always do. And and they say, that didn't turn out too bad.
And they're the first ones to say, when are you going to put it out?
Yeah,
they can't wait to hear their voice.
Well, I will tell you right now, I'm not worried about my voice, Josh. I have 3 podcasts, and I've got, over 130 or 40 episodes recorded, so I'm pretty good.
No, that's and I love I am so thankful that you have coming over, and whether it be coming over and showing me stuff or calling me up trying to get me to go to the damn brewery, and I have still yet to do that, which I'm going to. We got to get down there. I've never been to Whitewall at all, and it's a detriment.
Well, the cool thing about Whitewall, I always tell people, it's a local brewery here in town, so everybody goes to Skookum, and that's fine. I love Skookum. Sean is one of my good buddies. He's been the bartender there for years. The big old guy with the big beard. Everybody calls him Angel. His last name is Angel, right? So I know him as Sean because I used to play basketball against him in high school, and that's fine. But guess what? Kids aren't allowed. Yeah. And so I'm with my kids all the time. So it's like, hey, we can go to Whitewall. Kids are welcome. They have games there. They have coloring books, everything. And it's like, okay, we're going to Whitewall. I'm going to go there right after we talk and go fill up a growler. So, that's but anyway, that's you should go because your kids can go.
Well, I might have to go down there with you and pick up a growler. Considering I haven't done it. That's one of the avenues that I've actually been hitting up is I think there's a lot of brewers out there that want to tell their story and on a free range podcast. There's a few out there that I've already been in contact with, and that's going to be a fun thing to do is pop
They all
over.
start from such a weird spot too. Without getting into the stories, because I don't know who you're going to talk to, but there's some of these local breweries, and there's even the one out in Darrington, and some of them are just crazy. The guys, I stopped in we were out at Friday Harbor for New Year's, and those guys, I know you're not interviewing them, so that's why I picked that one. But those guys, the guy that owns the 2 major grocery stores, the only grocery stores on the island, he he obviously has a lot of money. So he built this place up from scratch. And, I mean, it is huge. And from what I understand, he's not, like,